ॐ ज्ञानातिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा गदामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णकरुणासिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya, Naram Chaiva Narottamam, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam, Tato Jayam Mudiraya. Ashtaprayeshu abhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
Hare Krishna, Leela Manjari Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. So, I'm not sure if devotees read on Thursday and Friday. So
Yeah, we did. We did. Yes, we finished everything.
okay, that's
So
great.
we are on text 11 today, but you know, there's just so few. There's only a few purports in there. That's why I gave so many verses to finish the chapter, because it's just description, most of it.
Okay, great. Sounds good. So we can begin with text 11. Are you there?
I am there, Mataji. I'm here.
Okay.
I didn't know if you were talking to me, or just talking, you know.
Okay.
Someone else got on, I think, too.
Sure.
I think, because I saw, just a minute here. Never mind. Anyway, it looked like there were 3 people on, but I can't be sure.
Okay. Would you like to read, Mataji?
Sure, I can read. Oh, Amar Shahitva Tam Asa Yat Tejasam Manu Putam Durmik Shayam Brud Putya Karala Damstrabir Udasta Bhaganam Sayat Svastikin Kopayato Vidatuhu. You know what, Mataji, I have to change the lighting in here. It's too hard for me to see, okay? One
Sure.
moment. Okay, it's a lot lighter now. Translations and purports by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The gigantic black man bared his fearful teeth. By the movements of his brows, he scattered the luminaries all over the sky, and he covered them with his strong, piercing effulgence. Because of the misbehavior of Daksha, even Lord Brahma, Daksha's father, could not have been saved from the great exhibition of anger. Text 12. Bhavevam udvignad drishotshyamane janena dakshasya muhur mahatmanaha utpetur utpatatama Sahasrasho Vayavahar Divi Umau Paryak. While all the people talked amongst themselves, Daksha saw dangerous omens from all sides, from the earth and from the sky. Purport. In this verse, Daksha has been described as Mahatma. The word Mahatma has been commented upon by different commentators in various manners. Viraraghava Acharya has indicated that this word Mahatma means steady in heart. That is to say that Daksha was so strong-hearted that even when his beloved daughter was prepared to lay down her life, he was steady and unshaken. But in spite of his being so strong-hearted, he was perturbed when he saw the various disturbances created by the gigantic black demon. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that even if one is called Mahatma, a great soul, unless he exhibits the symptoms of a Mahatma, he should be considered a Duratma, or a degraded soul. In Bhagavad Gita 9:13, the word Mahatma describes the pure devotee of the Lord. Mahatmanas tumam partha devim prakritim ashritaha. A Mahatma is always under the guidance of the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, how could such a misbehaved person as Daksha be a Mahatma? A Mahatma is supposed to have all the good qualities of the demigods. And thus, Daksha, lacking those qualities, could not be called a Mahatma. He should instead be called Duratma, a degraded soul. The word Mahatma to describe the qualifications of Daksha is used sarcastically. Text 13. Tavatsa Udranuk Shaver Maha Mahol Nanayedir Vamaniker Udayudah de
Echo.
Pishanger Makaro Paranane Paryad Ravatir Viduran Varudhayata. My dear Vidura, all the followers of Lord Shiva surrounded the arena of sacrifice. They were of short stature and were equipped with various kinds of weapons. Their bodies appeared to be like those of sharks, blackish and yellowish. They ran all around the sacrificial arena and thus began to create disturbances. Text 14. Kechid Babanju Ragvam Sham Patni Shalam Tatapare Sada Adnidra Shalamcha Tadviharam Mahanasam. Some of the soldiers pulled down the pillars which were supporting the pandal of sacrifice. Some of them entered the female quarters, some began destroying the sacrificial arena, and some entered the kitchen and the residential quarters. 15. Gurujur Yagya Patrani Tateke Agnin Anashayan Kundeshiv Amut Rayan Kechid Vividur Vedi Mekalaha. They broke all the pots made for use in the sacrifice, and some of them began to extinguish the sacrificial fire. Some tore down the boundary line of the sacrificial arena, and some passed urine on the arena. "16. Abadanta munin anye ekepatnir atarjayan apare jagrihur devan pratyasanan palayitan." Some blocked the way of the fleeing sages, some threatened the women assembled there, and some arrested the demigods who were fleeing the pandal.
Govatahila Mataji, I think some other devotees have joined if anybody
Excellent.
wishes to.
It would be nice if someone else read too.
Hare Krishna Mataji's, welcome back. Would anybody like to read? Yes, we are on text 17 of Canto 4, Chapter 5.
If nobody else wants to, I'll read 17. Brigam babanda maniman vir, virabhadra prajapitam patim chandesha pushanam devam bhagam namgis varo agrahit. Translation. Manimam, one of the followers of Lord Shiva, arrested Briga Muni, and Virabhadra, the black demon, arrested Prajapati Daksha. Another follower, who was named Chandesha, arrested Pusha. Nandishvara arrested the demigod Bhaga. 18. Sarva ivat vijo drištva sadasya sa divau Kasaha Tair Anyamana Sabrisham Gravabir Naikada Adravan. There was a continuous shower of stones, and all the priests and other members assembled at the sacrifice were put into immense misery. For fear of their lives, they dispersed in different directions. I don't know how far we're going on this.
We are reading until text 26 today.
26. 19. Juvat Shruva Hastasya Smasruni Bhagavan Bhava Brigor Ulunse Sadasi Yohasak Cham Masru Darsayan. Translation. Virabhadra tore off the mustache of Brigu, who was offering the sacrificial oblations with his hands in the fire. 20. Agasya netre Bhagavan patitasya rusapu bhuvi ajahara sadasto kisna yasapantam asu suchat. Translation. Virabhadra immediately caught Bhaga, who had been moving his eyebrows during Bhrugu's cursing of Lord Shiva, and out of great anger thrust him to the ground and forcibly put out his eyes. Does someone else want to read?
It's not easy, I can read.
Okay.
Text 21. Pushno hi apatyat dantan kalim rasya yatha bala sapyamane garibani yo ahasat dashayandata. Translation. Just as Baladev knocked out the teeth of Dantavakra, the king of Kalinga, during the gambling match at the marriage ceremony of Aniruddha, Virabhadra knocked out the teeth of both Daksha, who had shown them while cursing Lord Shiva, and Pusha, who by smiling sympathetically had also shown his teeth. Purport: here a reference is made to the marriage of Aniruddha, a grandson of Lord Krishna's. He kidnapped the daughter of Dantavakra, and thereafter he was arrested. Just as he was to be punished for kidnapping, the soldiers of Dwarka arrived headed by Balaram, and a fight ensued amongst the Kshatriyas. This sort of fight was very common, especially during marriage ceremonies, when everyone was in a challenging spirit. In that challenging spirit, a fight was sure to occur, and in such fights there was commonly killing and misfortune. After finishing such fighting, the parties would come to a compromise and everything would be settled. This Daksha Yagya was similar to such events. Now all of them, Daksha and the demigods, Bhaga, Pusha, and Brigumani were punished by the soldiers of Lord Shiva, but later everything would come to a peaceful end. So this spirit of fighting between one another was not exactly inimical, because everyone was so powerful and wanted to show his strength by Vedic mantra or mystic power. All these fighting skills were very elaborately exhibited by different parties at the Daksha Yagya. Text 22. आक्रमयोराशिदक्षस्य सीताधरणहेतिना छिन्दन् अपि तत् उद्धर्तुं नाशक्नोत् त्र्यम्बकस्तदा. Translation. Then Veerabhadra, the giant-like personality, sat on the chest of Daksha and tried to separate his head from his body with sharp weapons, but was unsuccessful. Text 23. शास्त्रैरस्त्रान्वितैरेवम् अनिर्भिन्ना त्वचं हर विस्मयं परा आपनो अपन्नो दथो पशुपतिश्चिरम्. Translation. He tried to cut the head of Daksha with hints as well as weapons, but still it was hard to cut even the surface of the skin of Daksha's head. This Veerabhadra was exceedingly bewildered. Anybody else would like to read 24, 25, and 26? Okay, I will continue. Text 24. दृष्ट्वा संज्ञापनं योगं पशूनांश्च पतेर्मुखे युध्यमाने पाशोकस्य कायातेन हरच्चिरा. Translation. Then Veerabhadra saw the wooden device in the sacrificial arena by which animals were to have been killed. He took the opportunity of this facility to behead Daksha. Purport. In this connection, it is noted that the device used to killing animals in the sacrifice was not designed to facilitate eating their flesh. This killing was specially intended to give a new life to the sacrificed animal by the power of Vedic mantras. The animals were sacrificed to test the strength of the Vedic mantras. Yagyas were performed as a test of the mantra. Even in the modern age, tests are executed on animal bodies in the physiology laboratory. Similarly, whether or not the Brahmanas were uttering the Vedic hymns correctly were tested by sacrifice in the arena. On the whole, the animals they sacrificed were not at all the losers. Some old animals would be sacrificed, but in exchange for their old bodies, they received other new bodies. That was the test of Vedic mantras. Veerabhadra, instead of sacrificing animals with the wooden device, immediately beheaded Daksha, to the astonishment of everyone. Text 25. साधुवादस्तदा कर्म तत्तस्य पश्यताम् भूतप्रेतपिशाचानाम् अन्येषं तत् विपर्यया. Translation. Upon seeing the action of Veerabhadra, the party of Lord Shiva was pleased and cried out joyfully, and all the bhutas, ghosts and demons that had come made a tumultuous sound. On the other hand, the Brahmanas in charge of the sacrifice cried out in grief at the death of Daksha. Text 26. Juhvai tachchiras tasmin dakshana now amarshita tatteva yajanam tagdva pratishtat guhyakalayam. Translation. Virabhadra then took the head and with great anger threw it into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, offering it as an oblation. In this way, the followers of Lord Shiva devastated all the arrangements for sacrifice. After setting fire to the whole arena, they departed for their master's abode Kailash. Purport thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, fifth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Frustration of the Sacrifice of Daksha. Wow, quite gruesome.
Yes, Mataji, it's very ghastly.
So I definitely missed the beginning of this chapter and
Mataji, you
also,
have to speak up. I have a hard time hearing you.
oh, I see. Were you able to hear as I was reading?
Yes, I mean, because I had the book in front of me, I knew what you were saying then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I missed some classes last week, so I would appreciate it while summarizing if anybody could share some of what happened in the readings last week.
Oh, hold on, just a minute. Let me. Excuse me. You got the part where Sati left her body. Is that where you left off?
Yes.
Let me go back just a minute. Oh, well then, then it's, so of course, Lord Shiva, once he heard about his wife, he became very, very angry. Okay. And also when he heard that the soldiers had been driven away, okay, by the Ribu demigods, he got extremely enraged, and he pressed his lips with his teeth, and he snatched a strand of hair from his head, okay, and he stood up and he laughed like a madman. It blazed like electricity, this particular strand of hair. And he was like a madman. He started dashing around and dancing, and he threw the hair to the ground. So what came out of this was a very fearful, gigantic demon came out of this, and Lord Shiva ordered, excuse me, since he was born of his Lord Shiva's body, he's the, wait a minute now, I wasn't quite sure about this, directly ordered. Because you are born from my body, you are the chief of all my associates. Therefore, kill Daksha and his soldiers at the sacrifice. So he was very upset, and so he ordered this demon, this black demon. He was considered the personified anger of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was ordered to kill Daksha. And this this black demon who was personified anger, he was ready to execute Lord Shiva's orders. And so, let's see. So he carried, he was very, very fearful, and he was fierce, and he carried a trident, and he wore bangles that seemed to roar. I mean, he really made a lot of uproar. Um, all the people at the sacrifice, and the priests, and and all the women and the brahmanas who were at the sacrifice were wondering, where was all of this coming from? And they thought that it was a dust storm, and so they got full of anxiety. But then again, they thought, well, if this is a dust storm, how come there's no wind blowing? There are no cows passing by, and since they had a strong ruler who was King Bari, they were like, well, wait a minute. It's not possible that this dust storm was raised up by plunderers, because if you have strong rulers, then they would punish them. So it couldn't have been done by any plunderers. And then they started to think it was the dissolution, okay, of the planet. And so they knew that, actually Daksha's wife, she knew that what was going on, that it was very dangerous for Daksha, because he created all of this, right? He created the death of Sati, and because she committed suicide right in front of her other sisters, okay, and she was completely innocent. And Prabhupada said that he was very cruel in doing this, because he wouldn't save his youngest daughter. And so the wife was like, okay, I'm convinced that this is dangerous now for Daksha, and he had to be prepared to die for that act. And then and so kind of we're at that point. It's talking about what it's like at the dissolution. Lord Shiva's hair is scattered. He pierces the rulers of the different directions with his trident. He laughs and he dances proudly, and all of that. And so it looked just like the dissolution of the planet, because he was dancing around like a madman. He had his trident, and he was making a lot of uproar. So that's kind of where it ended when we got to text 11.
Thank you so much. It's so helpful.
You're
Yes,
speaking
it's
so low,
so-
Mataji, I can't even hear you.
I said thank you so much
That sounds
for the
that's
recap.
better. Thank you.
So Mataji, would you like to summarize the text that you read?
Well, okay, so basically this is a description of what this big, gigantic black demon did. Of course, he bared his teeth, and he moved his brows, and he scattered the luminaries. I'm gathering that means the stars, everything that was like shining in the sky, and he covered them with his piercing effulgence. This anger that this black demon showed was so strong that it was very clear that he couldn't have been saved from this type of anger, that it was going to end up in death. So in 12, and then Daksha saw all the omens from all the sides, from the earth and from the sky. And then Prabhupada describes, it was done sarcastically to call him a Mahatma, because he was not acting like a Mahatma. And the Mahatma's always under the guidance of the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, Daksha, with his behavior, there's just no way he could be considered a Mahatma. He lacked the qualities of a Mahatma. He was actually a Duratma, or a degraded soul. Hmm. And you know, I was saying in these verses that I thought it was so sad that the father was so hard-hearted that he couldn't save his daughter when he saw her trying to kill herself. He was totally unshaken. And it was like, where's this man's heart, you know? At least that's how I felt when I was reading it. Made me very upset. So he wasn't, I don't believe, was demonstrating those qualities of a Mahatma or a pure devotee, okay, of the Lord. Oh, excuse me. So then at the sacrificial arena, Lord Shiva surrounded that, all the followers of Lord Shiva surrounded that arena of sacrifice, and they were all equipped with weapons, okay? This is interesting. Their bodies appeared to be like those of sharks, blackish and yellowish. So they ran all around the sacrificial arena and began to create disturbances. So what, you know, just describing what they did, the soldiers, some of them pulled down the pillars which were supporting the pandal of sacrifice. Some entered the female quarters, some began destroying the sacrificial arena, and some entered the kitchen and the residential quarters. Okay, they just created an uproar, very tumultuous uproar. They broke all the pots that were made for use in the sacrifice. And some of them started to extinguish the sacrificial fire. Some tore down the boundary line, and some passed urine on the arena. I thought that was a little bit, well, I guess, I don't know why that was needed to happen, but I guess the anger was just very intense. And then they tried to block the sages who were trying to flee. They threatened women who were assembled there, and some arrested the demigods who were fleeing. And Maniman, who was one of Lord Shiva's followers, arrested Brigu, Muni, and Virabhadra, the black demon, arrested Prajapati Daksha. So there were these arrests made, and yeah. Okay, I think that's about where I ended it. I think,
Yeah.
wasn't it Sugandha who
Yeah,
read
I think I did that one, but that's fine.
Sorry, yeah.
So there were arrests that were made, and said there was a continuous shower of stones. So people were throwing stones at each other, causing misery, causing people to disperse in different directions. One personality, Virabhadra, tore off the mustache of Brigu. So a lot of crazy things were going on. And Virabhadra then, out of great anger, thrust Bhaga onto the ground and put out his eyes. Oof. Because during this whole thing, Bhaga was moving his eyebrows while Lord Shiva was being cursed. So I think this is where I ended. I just wanted to say how anger, you know, it started out with just two people, and look at how anger, it's like an infection. It just grows, and you know, ultimately, I mean, it was two people that were upset at each other, and because they did not contain their anger and communicate, it became it involves so many people and so much destruction. It just shows how anger has, it has such a potential to destroy, and how you know that we need to learn how to take that anger and and I guess process it and communicate with the one that we feel the anger towards. I mean, it's not to say that one should not feel, but rather that one should not allow their feelings to destroy. Um, whether it's something big like this, pulling eyes and mustaches off of people, but rather, or just, talking about another devotee, or, confronting someone, not with the, if it's just, between two people, not with the intention to like win the argument, but rather to convey one's feelings and actually, allow some healing to happen. It's anyway. So that's just the thoughts that were coming to my mind. That something between two people can grow into something like this, the death of a daughter. I mean, all these different things, all coming from anger, all coming from the need to feel respected, and how
Yeah.
Lord Chaitanya just talks about you know one should um, one should be tolerant. If someone hurt us, I mean, we need to be tolerant. And I think it's healthy to discuss it with a person that you feel anger towards, or you're feeling bad emotions with, but not to let it be contagious to others and involving them and causing destruction. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. Hare Krishna.
Hmm. Thank you, Manasivangamatri and Govitanjivamatri, for summarizing. Are you guys able to hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, great. So, text 21. Oh, before I begin, I just wanted to mention that I asked this question if Sati was, what was her position? Was she, was she like, could she possibly come under the influence of Maya, or was she like very different from how we come under Maya? So, my Guru Maharaj responded by saying that this was a pastime, and Sati is the external energy of the Lord, and she's the eternal consort of Lord Shiva. So she cannot come under the influence of Maya. Not cannot come in the sense that in this pastime, it's a pastime. It's not that she was influenced by the three modes of nature. She is a pure devotee of the Lord, and she is personification of Maya herself. So I'll continue with text 21. So the text 21 actually describes another pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Baladev knocked out the teeth of Dantavakra. So this is a very interesting pastime. So it seems uh, that the comparison is between two pastimes. So there was a gambling match at the marriage ceremony of Anirudh, who was the grandson of Lord Krishna. And Lord Baladev, he liked to gamble. So this is one of the things that Kshatriyas would often do. If somebody challenged them to a gambling match, they would never refuse a combat. So Lord Baladev, he was playing the, um, against Dantavakra, the king of Kalinga. And as they were playing, um, Lord Baladev was winning the match, gambling match. But Dantavakra and his associates, they falsely accused him of losing, although he was winning. And they laughed at Lord Baladev. So as soon as Lord Baladev saw that, he punched Dantavakra because he was laughing, and all his teeth fell off. And he also had a friend, another friend. Um, I don't remember his name, but he was also laughing at Lord Baladev. So um, he also punched him, and all of his teeth also fell off because they were um, laughing at Lord Baladev. So similarly here, Virabhadra knocked out the teeth of both Daksha as well as Pusha, because both of them were um, like showing their teeth while cursing Lord Shiva. So um, this was their punishment for their offense against Lord Shiva. So, and Prabhupada says actually these kinds of fights between two parties is very common. So in Kali Yuga, we don't have to be surprised that this world is full of many, many misunderstandings. Even when two parties have a good intention, there is misunderstanding of intention between both of them, and sometimes there is this uh, kind of like, of course, as Manasi Ganga Mataji was saying, anger should not be exhibited in such a way that they knock off their teeth and pull off their mustaches. That is not appropriate. In fact, any kind of anger um, should be um, contained to a healthy state, so that while we express what we are frustrated about, but at the same time we do not cause any kind of harm um, or distress to the other person whom we are talking to, and try to resolve it in a nice manner. That was a nice point by Manasi Ganga Mataji. But this is very common, Prabhupada writes, even in those days. So usually men and women have this fighting spirit, and sometimes it comes out in many different ways. So, and Prabhupada also says this fight will also end, they will have a peaceful settlement later on. So we don't know yet what that settlement is, but they were just showing off their prowess by punching each other off. And in text 22, it is said that Virabhadra, he sat on the chest of Daksha, and he tried to separate his head from the body with sharp weapons. But Daksha was so strong that he was not successful, even though he tried to chop off his head with strong weapons. And finally, in 23, what he does is um, he tries to cut off the head of Daksha by chanting hymns, but even that did not help. And um, he he became Virabhadra, the demon created by Lord Shiva, became exceedingly bewildered. It's true, like he's just fighting against a human, but that human is so strong. He cannot cut off his head with weapons. I mean, just imagine the strength of Daksha. And in text 24, it is said that there was a wooden device in the sacrificial arena where animals were sacrificed, and he took that device to actually chop off the head of Daksha. And Prabhupada explains in the purport that um, these devices in Vedic sacrifices were used to actually test the power of mantras. So when mantras are chanted, a lot depends on the purity of the person who chants them. So we may be chanting the same type of mantra, but it has a different influence or effect on the consciousness of a person depending on the purity um, and from where it is received. So it is a popular thing in India. Many places they chant the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra is supposed to be chanted softly, but the Gayatri mantra is chanted very loudly um, by such people. And also, such people, they do not receive this Gayatri mantra in disciplic succession from a guru or a bona fide guru. They just accept it from anybody. I mean, anybody in the sense that who's not authorized in the disciplic succession, and they chant the Gayatri mantra loudly and make recordings of the Gayatri mantra. But it will not have the same effect as when it is received um, through the medium of a bona fide spiritual master, when everybody is trying to follow the regulative principles and they are being careful not to make offenses towards the Lord and his devotees. So similarly here, actually, the Brahmanas were so powerful. Powerful in the sense that they were very pure. Pure means powerful. So they were pure in their intent to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because of such purity, they became very powerful. And they were so powerful that just by chanting the mantras, they could ignite fires for the sacrifice by the power of mantras. And when they would chant these mantras, the animal that was sacrificed during the ceremony would receive a new body by giving up its old body. So it was not that the animal was exactly sacrificed, but it was more like receiving a new body in exchange with its old body. So Virabhadra took the opportunity to chop off the head of Daksha by using that instrument which was in the arena. And then there was celebration of the death of Daksha by the party of Lord Shiva. All the Bhutas, ghosts, and demons, they became very jubilant. And on the other hand, the Brahmanas, they cried out of grief because Daksha was their dear friend. So they cried out of grief. So in between all of this, Virabhadra took the head and threw it to the southern side of the sacrificial fire. So it seems to have some kind of a significance that it is the offering of an oblation. So in this way, because of their extreme offense to Sati herself, who is a pure devotee of the Lord, and Lord Shiva, who is the best among devotees, because of such offenses towards both of them, everybody had to suffer. So as Vaishnavas, we are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and we are trying to develop our Krishna consciousness. So it's very important to guard against offenses. So this is repeated again and again through all Vaishnava teachings. We have to be very careful about how we deal with the Vaishnavas. And there may be differences of opinions, but at the same time, if we are not careful how we deal with the Vaishnavas, there will be consequences for such neglect of respect of the Vaishnavas. So this is the This is the um, this is the effect of Daksha cursing Lord Shiva and not taking care of his own daughters because of his envy towards Lord Shiva. So I'm sure there is more to the story, which is coming soon. And but this is a great lesson that we cannot judge a Vaishnava just because of a particular behavior that he exhibits, or the type of clothes that he's wearing, or his behavior and actions from an external point of view. Because internally, we do not know what is the relationship that this Vaishnava has with Lord Krishna. And if he's very dear to the Lord, um, then there will be very, I mean, even if they're not pure devotees of the Lord, there is consequences when we offend ordinary soul. What to speak of a pure devotee of the Lord? It is considered to be the worst among offenses. It is said that when one is trying to cultivate a garden, when the plants are very tender, then one creates a fence around the garden. But when one offends the Vaishnava, then it is like allowing a mad elephant to enter the garden. A mad elephant cannot discriminate at all. It's it, and it's very powerful. So because of its power, it doesn't matter whether it is a lion or a tiger or huge tree trunk or just insignificant animals. Whatever comes under its way, it tramples them, it breaks them, it crushes them. So similarly, while we are trying to cultivate bhakti, if we offend a Vaishnava, it's similar to the to letting a mad elephant into a garden. So nothing will be left. Um, so one should be very, very, very. Um, one should be begging for mercy of the Lord, not to offend the Vaishnavas. Um, and it's very tricky, especially in Kali Yuga, because in Kali Yuga people are not broad-minded, so they can become easily confused and bewildered and angered, and they can react. So, but our only hope is that by the mercy of the Lord, we learn how to interact with the Vaishnavas, how to honor them, and the Lord will be very pleased by our behavior if we honor the Vaishnavas, and if we can pray that we can guard against offenses towards the Vaishnavas, because they're very dear to the Lord, very, very dear to the Lord. The Lord tolerates offenses towards himself, but he does not tolerate offenses towards Vaishnavas. So I'll end here, and if there is some discussion, we almost finished the fifth chapter of the fourth canto. So probably tomorrow we'll be starting the sixth. Madhuri, would any of you like to share something?
I just was thinking that anger is acceptable, you know, showing display of this great anger is acceptable when one is protecting another devotee, and we see this in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, or protecting or mm, not allowing offenses by like a non-devotee to the Lord Himself. I've heard that when one is in that protective mood, um, that I guess anger is fine. I just wanted to say that, but not on,
Mm.
you know, not something that is upsetting to me because someone said something, or that's not. Um,
Actually, this topic of anger it's a very very big topic
it is.
because yeah, I mean there can be so much discussion about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, anger is a normal emotion. We don't have to feel bad when we feel angry, but how we communicate that,
Yes. Hmm.
um,
Display of anger. The
yeah,
display of anger.
yeah, and how we communicate that is $1 million question. Like,
Hmm.
like everything depends on what we do with that anger, where we go with it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, we have to acknowledge it, we have to learn to live with it, but at the same time, it has to be very carefully used, so that we don't not destructive either to us or to others.
Hmm. Is anger one of the primary 12 rasas?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
One of them
that's
is
what I
anger.
thought.
Yeah.
I wonder within, I mean, I just know that one Leela. I wonder in other Leelas, like if that's one of the primary rasas, then I'm wondering how it's displayed in the spiritual world.
Mm.
Do you know of any other
I mean,
pastimes?
yeah, I mean, there are so many pastimes of the Lord killing the demons. Also, um, the gopis get angry with Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
They become angry with Krishna. And Lord Ramachandra, he became angry with the ocean when the ocean was not giving way
Mm-hmm.
for him to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And Hanuman, he set fire to Lanka because he was angry with Ravan.
Right.
It's a
I was just thinking more of like, so those are all very exalted personalities. I'm just wondering, you
mm,
know, how how it's acceptable mm, when more common people or whatever living entities.
I'm sorry, Mataji, I could not hear your last words.
I thought, I mean, everything you brought up were pretty much exalted personalities. So I'm wondering if anger for more of the common living entities, like, you know, is displayed as well. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, in some of Prabhupada's pastimes, like, there is description of sometimes he becoming angry, and then if we read like many of the books that, that were written by his disciples, and also like our own interactions with devotees, like there are many many examples of anger, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure
Prop
like what exactly like.
proper display. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
proper display, like examples of proper display of anger.
Anyway,
Mm.
it's getting.
Actually, yeah, it's getting late. Like we'll end with
Mhm.
this. So my Guru Maharaj, he often, um, you know, uh, gives this example. Like he was in New York, and devotees were having a great time in Prabhupada's quarters. Like devotees were showing all the art that they had made, and Prabhupada was in a great mood. He was smiling and laughing, and everybody was smiling and laughing with him. And then one of his servants entered, and for some reason, like he was not being very favorable towards Prabhupada. And Prabhupada became so grave and angry at the servant. And and he said something to the servant, and the servant left. And Prabhupada again came back to this very, very joyful mood. So the way my spiritual master takes it and explains it is that Prabhupada was not controlled by anger. He sometimes
Mm.
used anger to um, in a very specific manner against to rectify a behavior in a person, um, but he was not controlled by it. He was not dominated by it. So
Mm. Very good point. Right.
okay,
So I'm just wondering, just one question. Would you say anger is it the mode of passion? It could be
yes,
ignorance as yeah, mode of passion mostly, but sometimes ignorance as well, right? Could be
yes,
mixed.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Ignorance is when it becomes wrath,
When it becomes what?
rage, rage.
Rage. Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Matajis, for joining today, and we'll continue again on tomorrow. We'll be starting a new chapter. Brahma satisfies Lord Shiva. Okay, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.